Hello and welcome to the No Frills Reggae Boyz 2022 World Cup Qualification Report. This is where we look at the Reggae Boyz and their performances throughout the CONCACAF qualification stage based on the stats that come out of the facts. Going into the first game of qualifying in Mexico, squad numbers were issued to the weakened 23-man squad taken over for the match in the Aztec Stadium. And Coach Whitmore selected his starting lineup, as you can see here, for what promised to be a tough encounter against the #1 rated nation in the CONCACAF region in their own backyard. Putting together his lineup, he used a 4-2-3-1 formation. Of the available players from our recommended 11, only O'Neil Fisher didn't make the starting lineup for this match. As had been expected, the game proved to be a difficult affair for the Jamaicans, with most of the play taking place in the Reggae Boyz' defensive half of the pitch, and Mexico managing to maintain 69% of the ball possession. Goalkeeper and captain Andre Blake had a very busy game, making 10 saves under the heavy pressure from the Mexicans, which seemed to be focused on attacking towards the Jamaican left wing. Kamal Lawrence at left back and the two CDMs, Devon Williams and Anthony Grant, were kept busy, with the solid play of Grant a contributing factor, driving the Mexican offensive play onto the left side of the pitch and out of Grant's reach. Despite the low rate of possession that the Reggae Boyz had throughout the game, Grant managed to keep a 100% pass completion record throughout the game until he was subbed in the 87th minute. The Star Player Award, if one could be attributed to any of the players in the team for this match, would have to go to Adrian Mariappa, who played an important part in keeping the Mexicans at bay for much of the game, although Andre Blake's efforts in goal cannot be ignored. Norman Campbell, one of 8 players drafted into the 23-man squad who wasn't at the Gold Cup, had 2 of the 5 shots on target made by the Reggae Boyz, both made during the first half and both saved by goalkeeper Guillermo Ochoa in the Mexican net. After successfully managing to hold the Mexicans to a 0-0 scoreline by half-time, it was only 5 minutes into the second half when the Mexicans managed to break the deadlock with a strike from the edge of the box by midfielder Alexis Vega. 15 minutes later, the Reggae Boyz would pounce with an equaliser struck first time from the edge of the box by Shamar Nicholson as he latched on to an unsuccessful defensive headed clearance. The Mexicans, maintaining their pressure, were able to score a winner in the 89th minute, just minutes after the star man in midfield, Anthony Grant, was substituted, with another effort from the edge of the area, this time from 81st minute substitute Henry Martin, who came on for the scorer of the first goal, Vega, and sealed a 2-1 victory for the Mexicans. With all the other three games finishing in draws, this is how the table looks after Game 1 of CONCACAF World Cup Qualifications. This table finds the Reggae Boyz heading into Game 2 of CONCACAF World Cup Qualifications at home to Panama at the bottom of the CONCACAF table, but hoping to be able to claim 3 points with the added injection of the UK-based players into the squad for that game. Going into the first home game of the qualification, news started to leak through that 4 of the UK-based players listed in the initial 35-man squad would not be available for this international window, most likely because of injury or fitness issues. Leon Bailey and Amari Bell, both players who were involved in the recent Gold Cup campaign, were amongst these 4. The squad numbers issued for the revised 23-man squad for this game against Panama, including the 8 now available UK-based players, is as can be seen here. Perhaps more surprisingly, this squad didn't include one of the star players from the last game, Anthony Grant, or seasoned international Damian Lowe, who it is suggested is carrying a niggling injury. With the squad selection made, Coach Whitmore wasted little time in introducing all of the UK-based players available to him, excluding Adrian Mariappa and the goalkeeper Dylan Barnes, handing Michael Antonio and Kamaru their debuts. He threw caution to the wind by using a basic 4-4-2 formation with no specialised defensive cover coming from midfield. If Coach Whitmore had been expecting an easier encounter against a nation 24 places below them in the up-to-date FIFA World Rankings and 8th in the CONCACAF region, he would be sadly mistaken, as the visitors from Panama would go ahead within the first 15 minutes in what would turn out to be a battle carried out mainly in the middle of the park. Like the Mexicans did in the last game, much of Panama's play was focused on attacking towards the Reggae Boyz' defensive left side, keeping the likes of Ethan Pinnock and Kamar Lawrence busy, both who made important blocks in the first 5 minutes as the Panamanians orchestrated an early offensive on the Jamaican goal. A special mention has to be made for Kamar Lawrence, who managed to maintain a 95% pass completion rate across the game. As with the last game, it would be difficult to attribute a star player award to anybody in the team, having been overrun and stifled by a very tactically astute Panama team. But at a push, it would have to go to Daniel Johnson, who played a significant part in trying to give the Reggae Boyz a foothold in the middle of the park. The Panama team were the dominant force on the pitch overall and would manage to double their lead before half-time, before getting a third to complete a very disappointing outing for the Reggae Boyz in their own backyard. A result that leaves the Reggae Boyz sitting at the bottom of the qualification table after 2 games. To be critical, after straight defeats in their 2 opening games, the stats would show again that where Whitmore plays his favoured back 4 formations without a solid CDM, such as Michael Hector or Anthony Grant, the team is left exposed, as was brutally shown in this game. The third and final game of this international window will be against Costa Rica and will see the 8 UK-based players who were brought into the squad for this game withdrawn again. due to the coronavirus restrictions placed upon them by the British government, and they will be replaced with the other 8 players in the remaining 31-man squad. With the squad now minus the restricted UK-based players, there was a further alteration to the 23-man squad that would go to Costa Rica, with the introduction of a player from Jamaica's domestic league called Javon Watson to take the place of fellow Jamaican Premier League player Richard King. This was made possible due to the withdrawal of the UK-based players from the squad earlier on in the international window. The stream of problems for the Reggae Boyz during this window did not seem to be over when they arrived in Costa Rica, when 2 members of the squad, Kumar Lawrence and Norman Campbell, were detained at the airport and threatened with deportation because they did not have valid US visas, a stipulation for entry into Costa Rica. But after an intervention from Jamaica's Sports Minister, Olivia Babsy-Grange, and the Jamaican ambassador with responsibility for the Central American region, the 2 were later reunited with the squad, as is shown from this headline from the Jamaican Gleaner. The starting 11 picked by coach Whitmore for this game had 2 changes from the team that he picked against Mexico, with Junior Flemings, who impressed in the previous 2 games as a second-half substitute, and Tyreek McGee making his first appearance during this international window, both being brought in. Things didn't start well for the Reggae Boyz, who found themselves behind after just 3 minutes. Despite this bad start, the game turned out to be a tightly fought-out midfield battle with little actual goal-mouth action, and just a handful of shots on target from either side. The central defensive pair did a solid job at the back, but the eye-catching work was being done in the middle of the park by Devon Williams, who was by far the busiest player on the pitch, with only the star player for the day, Tyreek McGee, getting anywhere near his rate of possession, as McGee successfully recorded a 94% pass completion stat. Shamar Nicholson, who scored the Reggae Boyz' only goal in the World Cup qualifying campaign so far, was on target again early in the second half, managing to connect onto a Kumar Lawrence cross into the penalty area to pull the score line back to 1-1, and that is the way that it would remain to seal the Reggae Boyz' first points of the campaign. It wouldn't be enough to lift them off the bottom of the qualification table, but at least we can look at it as a start to what will hopefully be a more productive campaign going forward. Based on the stats gathered from the players that made an appearance during this international window, with an additional bias towards the 2 most high-profile players in the squad, that being Mikel Antonio and Bobby Reid, this will be the no-frills recommended starting 11. Compared with the post-Gold Cup summary 11, there are 4 changes to this lineup, including Mikel Antonio and Tyreek McGee, who is the player our stats refer to as the most valuable player during this window, even though he only made an appearance in the last game of the 3, working well in the midfield and presenting a significant threat to the Costa Rican defence along with Devon Williams in that game. With the lack of a natural right-back to put into the team, it would be possible to place Adrian Mariappa, who has played there before for the Reggae Boyz, into that position. With the wealth of strong central defensive players available in the squad, it would also be possible to place Damian Lowe forward into the central defensive midfield position, which again is a position that he has played for the Reggae Boyz before. This would also allow them to play a flat back 4, which Coach Whitmore appears to prefer. Ahead of him, McGee and Williams would be joined by Daniel Johnson, offering an offensive presence in support of the attacking midfielder Bobby Reid and the lone striker Michail Antonio. This would make for a 4-5-1 formation laid out as we can see here, operating as a 4-1-3-1-1. Going on the offensive, the fullbacks will hang back a lot more than in the previous formation that we used for the post-World Cup Summer 11. To protect the back line, they would only go forward one at a time, working on the wing with their closest midfielders to develop opportunities to send crosses into the box. The skill and strength of the three main midfielders would also be an additional outlet for the two star players, Reid and Antonio, at the top of the pitch. It will be interesting to see how Coach Whitmore approaches his squad and team selection going into the first game of the next international window, which will be away to the United States.